Okay, good morning. So this is the day after graduation from the 30-day meditation course. So again, well done for completing that. And if you still have if you still feel you have a meditate or two that you missed out on that still needs to be done, that's fine. That's fine. I wrote in the email that I sent yesterday, we've done a cumulative 8 hours. If you manage to do every meditation, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 20, and then all those 20-minute sessions, it's a cumulative 8 hours, pretty much 3 hours to halfway. And then when we did the 20 minutes, that was 5 hours. So like a solid day of meditation, if you like. And little in often is better than a lot sporadically. It's like, you could say, like brushing your teeth. It doesn't do so much for you. It's better to than not, but if you spent half an hour once a week brushing your teeth, it's not as good as a little bit every day. So today, I just want to share. I want to try and keep this down to 10 or 15 minutes max, about this technology. It's actually a technology. Arguably meditation is a technology, but this is a technology that came out, I suppose it's been around since the 70s. So in the 70s, this is the dry scientific, potentially a bit boring side. In the 70s, there was a researcher called Gerald Oster. He wrote a paper in Scientific American, I think it was October 73, and it was called Auditory Beats in the Brain. And the long and the short of it was, I don't know how he discovered this, but he found that if he was able to, through headphones, play a different frequency sound through one ear and a different frequency sound, so that the sounds going through the two ears were of different frequency, the brain waves would resonate to the difference between those two frequencies. So let me try and explain that in a simpler way. We spoke earlier in the course about the brainwave patterns, and we said if you looked at a wave, with a wave you have a crest or a peak, and then you have a trough, and then you come up to another peak, and that's its wavelength. The length of the wave is from, let's say, peak to peak, or trough to trough, or any point on the wave to the corresponding point somewhere on that wave further along. The length of that distance there, which is usually measured in time from peak to peak, for example, that length is known as its wavelength, the length of the wave. And sound is measured in that way. So the sound of a wave, if it was 1 hertz, we'd say it would take 1 second. Hertz just means cycles per second. It would take 1 second to complete an entire wave from peak down to trough, back up to peak. That would be 1 second. And sound works in that way, and our brain waves work in the same way. And we said that there were 4 categories of brain waves that we have: 0 to 4, delta, the very deepest; 4 to 8, theta, the kind of REM sleep, dreaming sleep place; 8 to 12, alpha, light relaxation. This is where our relaxation response that we've been practicing is mostly focused in the alpha range. And then beta, which is 12 and above. And then very, very high is gamma, but that's another discussion. So we have predominantly 4 brainwave patterns that we operate within. Okay, so what this researcher found was, if you could play sounds through the different ears, and they were at different frequencies. So let's say this side was at 10 cycles per second, was coming in at 10 cycles per second. And then over this side, it was 20 cycles per second, so twice as fast. There's a part of the brain called the olivary nucleus. You don't need to remember any of this. There's a part of the brain called the olivary nucleus, which detects the difference in the frequencies of those sounds coming in, and then it works out the difference. So I said 10 this side, 20 this side. The difference between those two is 10. The brain would start to resonate in its own patterns, its own brainwave patterns then would be 20 minus 10, 10, 10 hertz. So that would put us in the alpha range. So Dr. Gerald Oster found this out, and there was no kind of practical application to it. But what was fortunate was that around about the same time, the transcendental meditators were studying the brainwave patterns of meditators, and they were saying, what happens when someone meditates? Well, what happens when someone meditates is the brain waves, we know, become more coherent, or there's more synchronization between the sides. But also what happens is they slow down. They slow down. So we come from a beta to an alpha. Then when you get more experience with meditation, then you can start to make momentary excursions into theta. And then when you're really experienced, 15, 20 years down the line, then you spend more time in theta. And then for the very, very deepest meditators, they can access waking delta. But that's, I don't know the numbers, but it's very rare for people to make waking delta. Some people might be able to do it straight away. Of course, that it's always a possibility. But if we say humanity is like that bell curve, and most of us are in that center, most of us are not going to be able to make conscious waking delta, through our own intention. So I would say like 30, 40 years of 8 hours a day, and then someone starts to make waking consciousness. I could be entirely wrong there, but from what I practice, what I understand. So we have the TM people studying the brainwave patterns of experienced meditators and seeing what was happening. At the same time, there's Dr. Gerald Oster, who recognized that, if we play different frequency sounds in each ear, we can affect what brainwave pattern happens in the brain. Great, So then there were some experimenters at that time that said, well, look, we know we can affect the brain in the way we want it to, the patterns of the brain. We know what the brainwave patterns of meditation are. So what happens if we start to play with these sounds so that we put people into a deep state of meditation? And that's exactly what they did. That probably started happening late 70s, early 80s, late 1970s, early 1980s. And so what they did was they played the different frequency sounds. They made the difference between these sounds. So I said 20 and 10. They would keep the bottom number the same. So you keep receiving this 10 hertz sound through here. But this number changed. From 20, they'd slow it down a little, down to 19, down to 18, down to 17, down to 16, down to 15. So you see the difference then between those numbers is reducing. So what happens is the brain waves slow even more. And you can keep reducing that number down and down and down. And the rate at which to do that, they generally say, take about 20 minutes, to reduce someone from beta. You can get down into waking conscious delta within 20 minutes comfortably. Anybody can do that right now. So you can have the effects of a 40-year practice of meditation, 30-year practice of 8 hours a day meditation, and be able to produce waking delta for yourself right now. You also go through the others. So you go through alpha on the way down, you go through theta on the way down, and you can get down to waking delta comfortably within 20 minutes. So you have, it's sometimes described as like the power of Zen meditation, of a Zen master at the touch of a button. You just press play, you close your eyes, and away you go. So then, the initial people were experimenting, and they made mistakes, and this isn't the way to do it, and this is the way to do it. And one of really the leader that came out of that whole movement is the company that actually I went to work for a couple of brief periods, purely because of what had happened when I started using it. My sister's fiance introduced me to this technology, and he said, hey, Rich, have a listen to this soundtrack. And yeah, okay, I gave it a go. My dreams were kind of a bit more interesting, presumably because it was putting me into that, waking REM state. So it was helping with the reorganization of yeah, of emotions and experiences. And so my dream life became quite vivid and interesting. Um, and then this part almost almost impossible to explain until it happens. But the promise of meditation is the expansion of your consciousness. So I spoke yesterday about this Sat Chit Ananda, this awareness, or this oneness, the awareness and the bliss that comes from it. So that middle component, the awareness, meditation says that as your mind settles, you just become more aware, and you 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 become more aware. And what you're becoming more conscious of is your connectedness to the entire going on of everything, which sounds very ethereal until it's practical and it's, you know, it's brought home. Well, I didn't know all this stuff about Satchitananda and what have you, and my sister's fiance passed me this meditation product back in the day, and I just used it. I read a little bit of the support material that came with it, and one day, I don't know how long it was. I started in August 2000, and this was probably autumn, fall time. So 2-3 months max. And I was walking through a warehouse. I was working for Amazon it was in Milton Keynes. I'd commuted up from Slough to Milton Keynes at the time. And I walked through the warehouse. I remember walking past this lady. I still remember it to this day. And this is like over probably about 20 years ago. I walked past her, and suddenly my awareness expanded. That's the only way I can say it. And I realized at that moment in time, I'd lived my entire life thinking that the world was this way, and there was no question about it. I didn't even have any conscious access to the fact that I believed the world was this way. And in a heartbeat, in an instant, I knew that that wasn't the case. And it wasn't that my previous view was wrong. It was that my previous view was incomplete, and it expanded in quite a dramatic way at that moment. Oh, I was shocked. Oh my gosh. But positively shocked. I felt like I'd been given another piece of the puzzle of life. Like, whoa, how come I'd never had this before? And it's such a tremendous experience of opening of your eyes. Like, I think Aldous Huxley called it the doors of perception. Or if you've ever seen The Matrix, the one of the main characters offers the main character, do you want the blue pill or the red pill? If you take the blue pill, we put you back to sleep, everything seems fine, and da 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 da. If you take the red pill, well, then you get to see what truth and reality is. And as I say, I didn't know all of this stuff prior to starting to use this technology, and then bang, there it was in front of my eyes. Whoa. So then I rushed back home, had to read through all the support material, and it was all there, everything that was suggested was going to happen. There it was. You know, you'll have an expansion of awareness. Things will make sense in a whole new way that you could have never before imagined. And then that started such a golden era in my younger life, where then I was using the technology, and I remember saying to people, there's no amount of money on the planet you could offer me to stop me using this. Absolutely not, because now I've seen that there's a possibility to have a little bit of an expansion of awareness. Well, I know that there must be other ways I'm viewing the world that are also not necessarily inaccurate, but incomplete. So I want to know how complete could my understanding or my awareness become. And then I went on retreats and this and that, and had an even more powerful expansion. But that was more to do with the heart. My heart just blew open at the end of a week-long retreat using this technology quite powerfully for 6 or 7 days. And I knew instantaneously that that we're all connected through the heart. We don't see it, but every being, and probably every sentient being, as the Buddhists say, but certainly every human, I felt connected through my heart to everybody in the environment here, and then it expanded to the world. And I knew why the Buddhists sit and chant prayers of meditation, of compassion and loving kindness, because they know that that connection is there through us into the heart, from heart to heart, that we are connected with each other through love. It's the binding force within us. And so this all happened in a really short period of time, relatively speaking. And it was everything that the technology promised it would be. And there's no kind of, there's no cult associated with it. A lot of my friends said, "Oh, you're going to the West Coast of America to study meditation with a group. You know, is it a cult? You know, what do they do? No. The guy was very much a realist, pragmatist. He's very pragmatic. He was owned. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. Bill died fairly recently, but very, very pragmatic man. He was he had a for-profit company because he knew, well, look, if we can make profit, we can get this out to more people. Because the same kind of thing had happened to him. He came from a more dramatic background and experience where his life was, by his own estimation, very messed up. He'd done nothing with his life up till the time he was 40, and by his own admission, it was not a particularly fulfilling and rewarding life. And then you see what he was able to create in the second half of his life. It's fantastic what he did for the world, philanthropy, spending this money to set up schools in Africa and support disadvantaged inner city kids in the city he came from. And a personally really accomplished person, such a role model for me, of what business can be about, not purely for the need for profit, but yes, a business needs profit to survive, but we use that profit to better the world. So I hope a sense of enthusiasm is coming across in my voice. The company name is Centerpoint, centerpoint.com. If you're watching this video on YouTube, there's going to be a link below that will have my affiliate tag in it. So if you click through that link, I will make a commission on the sale. But Bill was my role model, so and still is. The profit I make will allow me to survive, and then beyond that, my intention is, there's a new movement called conscious capitalism. My intention is any extra profit gets refunneled into market, for example, the 30-day meditation course, the free meditation course, to get these powerful techniques out to people in the world, and so they can have the same, or similar, their own version of the experiences that I've been fortunate enough to, the fates ran me into. So that's it. There's a meditation product. It costs money. It does cost money. I think at the moment, 2020 is about $111. They've just reduced. That's the first level. It's a graduated level program. You don't have to do all of the levels. You can use that first one as a standalone. But what you'll find is that your brain will adjust to the stimulus the first one is providing. It will feel quite strong initially. You just listen to it daily, or 5 times a week. And you'll feel there's quite a strong push from the technology. You'll feel you're deep. You'll know something is happening. I think they even offer a demo on the website, so you can try. But that's quite a light version. You've got to assume that when you have a go at that light version, that demo version, what you're really going to get is going to be, I don't know how you quantify it, twice as powerful. And so then over the course of 4 to 6 months of that first level, your brain is making the necessary changes to be able to handle this stimulus that the technology is providing, because it is putting you into deep 20-year meditation practitioner brainwave patterns. You're kind of skipping all of that learning experience, or that learning stage where it can be difficult and it's easy to give up and it's frustrating and not much looks like it's happening. You skip that first 20 years and boom, you're straight into powerful meditation instantly. I can't recommend it highly enough, and there's nothing else on the planet that at this time I can recommend more completely. So that's probably a lot longer than I was planning to record for you, But if you have any questions, please get in touch. If you get in touch with Centerpoint and you don't use the link below, please say that you came via Richard at Your Born Identity. It won't cost you an extra penny, but I will get the commission on the sale, and then I can plow that money back into getting more people into the meditation. But I guess either way, as long as you use it, that's the main thing. If I don't have the money, as it were, well, then Bill's company, Centerpoint, have the money, and I know they're doing good work. So either way is fine. Okay, thank you.